We'll get started in just a minute. We're waiting for a quorum, so thank you for your patience. For those who just walked in, we are still waiting for quorum of the committee, and as soon as my colleagues are here, we'll get started. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of the Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee for Tuesday, August 21st. My name is Jeremiah Ellison, and I'm the vice chair of this committee, but today I'm making my EDRS chair debut. So thank you. With me today at the dais are Councilmembers Gordon, Fletcher, and Cano. I want the record to reflect that we are a quorum of the committee. We have 13 items on today's agenda, including 2 joint public hearings with the Minneapolis Community Development Agency Operating Committee, with 1 quasi-judicial hearing. The Minneapolis Community Development Agency Operating Committee is also this committee, so we'll be having a joint committee, but the members are the same. Before going into the hearings, we will handle the consent agenda. Items 7 through 13. Item 7 is approval of liquor license applications. Item 8 is approval of general license renewals. Item 9 and 10 are approval of gambling licenses and gambling license renewals. Item 11 is authorizing exclusive development rights to AECOM for the purchase and redevelopment of city-owned property at 800 Washington Avenue South, along with authorizing staff to negotiate redevelopment contract terms. Item 12 is referring to staff a series of ordinance amendments relating to liquor license classes and allowable entertainment ordinance, authored by Councilmember Johnson. And item 13 is referring to staff an ordinance amendment regarding tenant protections related to calls for emergency services, authored by Councilmember Schrader. Are there any questions or comments from committee members on these items? Awesome. With that, I will move approval of recommendations on items 7 through 13. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. Next, we have the community development. We have the Minneapolis Community Development Agency public hearing items, which will be conducted jointly with the EDRS committee, whose members are identical. Ms. Newman, could you provide a brief overview of the MCDA operating committee?
Mr. Chair, I'll do that.
Oh, okay, great.
Ms. Newman's not here.
Sorry.
This is just a brief overview of what the MCDA Board of Commissioners and MCDA Operating Committee. Just by way of background, the MCDA, Minneapolis Community Development Agency, has been a separate legal entity since 1980. In 1986, between 1980 and 1986, there was a separately appointed Board of Commissioners. In 1986, the Board of Commissioners became the City Council. And subsequently, the Operating Committee became, at that time, the Community Development Committee of the City Council. And MCDA, in its role, was charged with economic and housing development throughout the city. MCDA existed with separate staff until 2002, when it was incorporated into the city of Minneapolis. The successor agency department to MCDA is CPED. All employees of MCDA at that point became city employees, and the development functions were transferred to the city of Minneapolis. But MCDA as a legal entity still exists, and for good reason. There are hundreds of thousands of documents, as you might imagine, that have MCDA's names on them, and no one wanted to take the time or spend the money to get those all edited. And so there were also certain functions that MCDA, which is the City Council, must approve. One of those is bank qualified bonds, and there are two bank qualified bond issues on the agenda today, which Mr. Curtis will go through, and he can also talk about the bank allocated bond program, bank qualified bond program, and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Lutz. Sorry for the earlier confusion. I will open the joint meeting of the Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee and the MCDA Operating Committee and ask staff to present item number 1, the bond issuance for Eastside Neighborhood Services for its facilities at 1700 2nd Street Northeast.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you do have before you an application for preliminary and final approval of the issuance of up to $705,000 of these bank-qualified bank direct bonds. Eastside Neighborhood Services, you mentioned, is at 1700 2nd Street North, and it has a large number of social service activities, adult employment, training services, family services, adult daycare. This particular financing is intended to renovate the daycare facility at the 1700 2nd Street Northeast. There are representatives here if you should have questions of the organization, or if you have any questions about the bonds, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do my colleagues have any questions before I open the joint public hearing? All right, seeing none, I will open the joint public hearing. If there's anyone to speak, please come up and state your name and address. I do have two names on the sheet here. Not sure if the folks actually want to speak, but I have a Robert Foster and a Jeff Mundington.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, they are the representatives. Should you have any questions?
Okay.
They didn't really have any prepared speech to make on
Okay.
it, but should you have any questions, they're here.
Okay, great. Do my colleagues have any questions for them? Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a really important community asset in our community. Eastside Neighborhood Services is in the 3rd Ward, and a lot of Ward 3 constituents make use of these facilities. So I wonder if one of the representatives would be willing to just describe what capacity we're adding or what improvements we're making to the daycare facility so we can understand what's being made available to our constituents.
Thank you, council members. Councilmember Fletcher. My name is Robert Foster. I'm the attorney for Eastside Neighborhood Services Incorporated. And through a study with an independent consultant, it was determined that the entire facility where the daycare is held in that building at 1700 was, when the facility was built, was inappropriately sized so that we couldn't maximize the number of children that could use that facility. And with the help of a consultant and some architecture, we decided to completely redo the space so that we could get the maximum number of children to be served by that facility. And so it will include updating of the playground, the entrance to the building, and then a complete remake of the inside of the building associated with the daycare facility.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration today.
Absolutely. Do any of my other colleagues have any other questions? All right. Do any other members of the public wish to speak on this issue? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I would like to move approval and refer the matter to the MCDA Board of Commissioners. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. The second joint public hearing is the bond issuance for Avivo, formerly Resource, for the acquisition and renovation of 10 housing units used to support the social services of Avivo at 1810 and 1820 Columbus Avenue South.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, you have before you a request for up to $1.8 million of bank qualified, bank direct revenue bonds. As you mentioned, it's for the acquisition of 2 buildings, apartment buildings, near their main location, which is at 1900 Chicago Avenue. These 2 residential facilities have 10 units, and they have been under lease by Avivo since 2011. They are used in support of the social services of the organization, which again has a lot of different services for job placement, mental health, drug addiction, and these units support both individuals and their families during the time that they are in these programs, so that the programs can serve best when people have a stable housing, and as they progress, they move on to their own establishments. If you have any questions on this, we have representatives from Avivo here. It's privately placed with Bremer Bank.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Before we open the joint public hearing, I will see if my colleagues have any questions. All right, seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Do any members of the public wish to speak on this issue? All right. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I would like to approve and refer the matter to the MCDA Board of Commissioners. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. With that, we will adjourn the joint EDRS and MCDA operating committee and move on to the remaining public hearings for just EDRS items 3 through 5. Item number 3 is considering application for Elliot Park Hotel at 1823 5th Avenue South, Minneapolis, submitted by Ambassador Hotel Collection LLC for an on-sale liquor with Sunday sales Class A license. Yes, Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you stated, this is an application for an on-sale liquor establishment with a hotel license. This building is a new construction that's located at that site. It's newly built. It has 168 units of the hotel, which include about a 3,000 space restaurant and bar. The interior seating will be for 120, and there's no exterior seating of this establishment. The restaurant bar is going to be a full-service food establishment with full alcohol service. Because of this new application, there is a public hearing requirement. Public hearing notices were sent out to residents and property owners within 450 feet of the premises. We've received one response in favor, and lead license inspector Christina Seester has reviewed this application for minimum qualifications with the police licensing and is making a recommendation to approve at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Before we open the public hearing, do any of my colleagues have any questions for staff? All right, with that, we will open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public to speak on this issue? Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dana Orlando. I'm the general manager of Elliot Park Hotel, located at the residence of 823 5th Avenue South. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I speak on behalf of the hotel, obviously. We're excited. You already eloquently stated the logistics of our facility. I just want to share that being a part of the revitalization of Elliot Park is actually very exciting. The team and I are not only excited to open the hotel, but to be a part of that Cross-Anderson revitalization block with the brewery, the residences, the hotel. And part of what we do and why we exist is to give back to the community. So our culture and all that we do, we have partnered with a lot of vendors within the community to give back. And so in addition to the hotel, the restaurant, the liquor license, the existence that we are is for the purpose to coexist within the community. And
Thank you.
I'm here to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Would any of my colleagues like to move approval of this item? Great. Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for doing business downtown. It's great to see so many great new businesses opening up. I'm happy to move approval on this item.
Councilmember Fletcher has moved approval on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. Moving on to item number 4, we have the Mixed Blood Theater Company located at 1501 4th Street South for an on-sale wine with strong beer license. Ms. Roberts, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the application is for Mixed Blood Theater. It is a theater license, and they're pursuing an on-sale wine license with strong beer to function in coordination with their theater license. That theater has located at that location for 38 years, so this is a new enhancement to an established theater in our community in Minneapolis. Mixed Blood does not need to have a restaurant license associated with this. That is covered by state statute and city ordinance that allows theaters to have alcohol licenses without that theater or that restaurant requirement. However, they do have some food offerings. Public hearing is required for this new license, and public hearing notices were sent out to residents and property owners within 600 feet of the premises. We've received one response, and that was in favor. And again, lead license inspector Christina Casister has reviewed the application with police licensing, and it meets minimum standards, and we're making a recommendation to approve at this time.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I will open the public hearing at this time. Do any members of the public wish to speak on this issue? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Councilmember Gordon.
I'm happy to move approval of this item.
Awesome. Councilmember Gordon has moved approval of this item. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. And with that, we have item number 5, which is Fairview Health Services bond issuance. And I will let staff give the presentation. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. You have before you a request for preliminary and final approval of revenue bonds for a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Fairview Health Systems. In the report, you will see that this involves quite a bit of refinancing of 2004, 2005, 2008 debt. In addition, you'll see a listing of the various cities in which previous dollars have been spent. This request is for an issuance of up to $550 million, the majority of which would be for the refinancing, refunding. It's the same as if you're refinancing a mortgage on your house. They pay off the old bonds with the new bonds. There is some new money in this, and the new money will be spent on Minneapolis facilities and at the Edina facility. There are representatives here of the hospital if you should have any questions. This is a fairly large refinancing, refunding, and it's for an organization that's been doing business with the city for quite some time.
Thank you. Yeah, would like to see if any of my colleagues have questions. Councilmember Gordon.
I was just curious in terms of what kind of improvements or investments might be made in the Minneapolis hospitals. There's actually 2 of them that are in the 2nd ward.
Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Gordon, they've indicated that the new money in Minneapolis and Edina will be spent for renovations, improvements, and equipment at the University of Minnesota Medical Center and the Fairview Southdale Hospital. Those expenditures are upgrading emergency departments, operating rooms, radiation, and laboratory facilities.
Well, excellent. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Do any of my other colleagues have any questions? All right, with that, I will open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would wish to speak on this issue? All right, seeing none. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Gordon.
I was just ready to move.
Oh, okay, sorry. I will close the public hearing. Councilmember Gordon.
Yeah, this is certainly a significant amount of money, and I understand a lot of it is refinancing, but these are actually major employers in the region here, the hospitals, and also they certainly serve our communities. So I'm glad that we're able to participate even in this small way in helping improve this Fairview Health Service system. And that's me moving approval.
Awesome. Councilmember Gordon has moved approval of this item. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that motion carries. We will now move on to the quasi-judicial hearing, the restaurant and mobile vehicle vendor license revocation for OGs due to outstanding taxes owed to the Minnesota Department of Revenue. I'll ask for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joel Fussy from the City Attorney's Office addressing this matter. As you might recall, this is the sort of state statute dictated license revocation matter that comes before you a handful of times each year. In this case, it involves essentially two food truck licensees and a separate brick and mortar or Skyway restaurant license location, all held by O'Cheese LLC. Licensing staff have been notified pursuant to Minnesota state statute by the Minnesota Department of Revenue that there is an outstanding tax obligation owed to the state, and by operation of the applicable state statutes, we are required to revoke their the licenses which that affects within, I believe it's 30 days. So essentially, the only issue before this committee and the council is whether the licensee has obtained what's known as a tax clearance certificate from the state, and if they have, and if they do prior to next Friday's full council meeting, the matter can be stricken. However, in the absence of a tax clearance certificate, you are required to revoke their license. And at this time, I think it would be appropriate to open the hearing to see if the licensee or a representative of the licensee is here to address you.
Thank you, Mr. Fussy. Before I open the public hearing, do my colleagues have any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. And I don't see anyone here, so I'm going to assume that there is no one here to speak on this issue. With that, I will close the public hearing. I would like to move approval of the staff recommendation to revoke the license due to outstanding taxes owed to the Minnesota Department of Revenue as mandated by Minnesota statute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. And that motion carries. Seeing no further business before us, we are adjourned. Thank you.